I'm Brita, Web Mistress of the Dark. Last time I showed you how to design and cut the foam for your haunted headstones. Today we're going to glue them and then keep going with carving. What I'm going to do first is I'm using, it's white glue but it's extra super tacky glue. You do not want to use hot glue because that's too hot and will melt your styrofoam. Spray adhesive. The spray paint and any aerosol can damage the foam, so that's not necessarily the best glue to use either. So good old white glue and time and patience under weight is what you want to do. So for instance, I'm going to set this piece where it needs to go, and I'm going to put a weight on it to make sure it stays in good contact where it needs to stay. Like an old broken brick. You can see I've been doing a lot of gluing already. I got this angel on the blue foam one. I have tape holding it under tension because gravity alone was not enough to keep it in pressure with full contact with everywhere it needed to be glued. So the tape is long because if it was too short, the tension might make it pull up and let loose. So I wanted to show you how you need to be careful where you're actually gluing the angels, because they're not going to have everywhere touching the foam, so you only need to glue where it actually hits the foam. Now these might fall off when you're storing them from year to year. Just go ahead and glue it back on the next year. You're fine. I've done that a lot already. Okay, so now I'm going to make sure he stays in full contact by putting pressure on with the tape here. So now, since we've used white glue, we have to wait till everything's dry before we can do any carving. So I'm going to let this sit overnight, then hopefully everything will be dry tomorrow to start carving. Here we are, the glue has all dried. Now, if you yank it, of course, you're going to pull it off because you'll tear the foam away, but this will stay on for all normal graveyard usage. I have my notes here again, my scratch paper where I designed it, so I'm going to eyeball it here. Very, very lightly with the pencil so you don't make indentations, because you just need to see this close up enough for the wood burning tool. You can also trace with a ballpoint pen or a sharp pencil through your paper so you just get the outline of all your lettering, and then take the paper off, then use the wood burning tool. So though you have plenty of options, you can also just say heck with it and just freehand with the wood burning tool, whatever you want. It'll look like a very rustic gravestone. Hey, there's some of those out there. Perfectly good for any graveyard. Whew, that took a while. And I'm not sure you can see it. I think I'll do a close-up for you as well. Since it's such light colored pencil on here, because I didn't want to dig into my design, I also didn't want to get confused on which line was the right one by using the black pen. Alright, now that I have my epitaph traced on my gravestone, I'm ready to start carving. I'm using a wood burning tool. You can get this at any craft store. It's usually around $10 or so. Usually it comes with a basic set of tips. They're metal tips. You have to change tips when it's cool. This is really, really hot. That's why it comes with this little stand here, so you can keep it off of your table and away from anything else so you don't bump into it. I have mine hooked up to a dimmer switch. So this gives me a lot more control on the temperature. If it's without the dimmer switch, it's hot enough that it really burns the foam right away. So you can't get any fine lines. You get the full width of your tip plus some, because it's so hot it just vaporizes the foam. This is also why we're doing this outside. It's very stinky and it's not fumes you want to breathe in, so do it in a well-ventilated area. Notice that it actually works just like a pencil, but you're obviously not touching the metal part because that's what's hot. So I usually start just like I'm writing, very carefully, barely touching. I do the outline first because I may not have it at the right temperature yet, so I may need to adjust. And a lot of this is just practice of getting used to your wood burning tool and what temperatures it does what with the foam. Sometimes we get little strings of foam, little hairline spider webs, just pull those away. So here I'm doing the smallest letters that I have on this gravestone. Got a little bit hotter, so I've got to be careful. Because if you hold the wood burning tool in one spot, it's just going to keep eating foam away from you. So go quickly, kind of more like sketching, because you can always go back over it. In smaller strokes, lifting up and away from the foam. If you're really not used to using a wood burning tool for this, and you're worried that you might ruin the gravestone you just cut out, why not just practice? You have some scraps from what you cut out, so just go ahead and practice for a while. And see how I can just get near to the edge of the foam and it'll just melt away even if I'm not actually touching it. So I wanted to get all the lettering done before I did any other carved decoration around the side, and now I know where to aim to do other decorations. I'm just going to do some extra striping around, so a carved channel around the inside of the raised bit here. Just make it look a little fancier with a little more texture. And texture is good for this because when you're looking at it in the dark, you're going to see shadows. And so the more shadows you can make, the spookier it's going to look, and more realistic. So I have those done. I'm not going to get too much more fancy on this, except I do think we should have some cracks like it's a crumbling gravestone. To do a crack, I think a lot of the cracks would start from the bottom, from the base of the stone. So this is where you can use the temperature and the time of the wood burning tool to your advantage. If you hold it down close to the foam, deep in there for a while, you widen the base of your crack. Then when you pull it along, you get a more hairline crack by pulling the wood burning tool up and making it go more quickly across the foam. So you can just, have them go here, there, wiggle along, keep drawing, freehand, make it look like a crack. Sometimes it's hard to make it look like a crack instead of like a tree branch, but this looks pretty good. I think I've got enough cracks on this gravestone, so I'm done carving. Here's how it looks. Kind of hard to see the lettering when you don't have it painted, but you can probably see a little bit of the shadows. So you can definitely see it's carved. Here I'm just about done with the epitaph on this one. I want to show you that it's really a lot more like drawing than it is like writing. You need to go slowly with the wood burning tool. Outline your shapes. So you'll see that to do the thick and thin effect, I'm drawing the outside line first, and then I'm filling in the inside, tapering off to the same original line where it was before. The other nice thing about using this black letter style Gothic font is that it'll be very forgiving. You can always thicken up a line if it got wiggly. You can line up your serifs all across the bottom, and then you know you're actually going to have a straight line. See, sometimes the foam will bump, but you can always even the letter out just like that. And I'm going to crank up the heat a little bit and go back. I find it's easiest to go back and forth, and then you can hold it at a consistent depth. It also ends up looking like carving that way. So this gravestone, I plan to have a lot more carving detail for decorative edging around this. So the scroll work is about like this on both sides. It goes like a curlicue, and then the curlicue feathers off into leaves. Here I'm doing the leaf detail now around my border. I'm just freehanding these because it's a border. It doesn't matter if it's completely symmetrical. Now I'm finished with all the leaves around the border. I'm not sure if I want any cracks on this one. This one's already busy enough. If you can see, that's a lot of detail. I did say I was going to make this one elaborate, and I think I succeeded. I've got a lot going on here. Tune in next time where we'll be painting the gravestones, first with the base coat of all gray, then we'll be doing an aging technique to make them look really old and authentic. I hope you've enjoyed watching today. For more projects like this, you can buy my book, Eerie Elegance, at eerieelegance.com. I hope you have a fabulous Halloween and happy haunting!